Let's look at solving rational equations. Rational equation is an equation that has actually fractions, and sometimes the fractions have variables in the top, on the top, or in the bottom. So an example like this: solve x over 2 plus x over 6 equals 2 over 3. That's a rational equation. Now, I know not many people are fans of fractions. I'm not a fan of an equation that has fractions in it. So if I can get rid of the fractions, I'm going to jump on that. And we can't get rid of the fractions. All we have to do, multiply the entire equation by the LCD. And my LCD for 2, 6, and 3 is 6. I'm going to multiply this term by 6 over 1, this one by 6 over 1, and this one by 6 over 1. And now let's simplify. By 2, this is 1. By 2, this is 3. So 3 times x, that's 3x over 1. I don't need the 1. 6 cancels the 6. End up with 1. 1 times x is x equals. By 3, this is 1. By 3, this is 2. 2 times 2, that's a 4. So notice in one step, we get rid of all the fractions. What is 3x plus x? That's 4x equals to 4. And to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 4 because you have to make that number 1. X will have to be 1. Let's try another one. Solve y over 2 minus y over 3 equals 1 over 12. Again, the LCD for 2, 3, and 12 is 12. I'm going to multiply this by 12 over 1, 12 over 1, and 12 over 1. Let's take the 2 and the 12. By 2, this is 1, this is 6. What is 6 times y? 6y. By 3, this is 1. By 3, this is 4. What's 4 times y? 4y over 1, which is 4y. By 12 and 12, this is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 6y minus 4y is 2y equals 1. Again, to solve it for y, I'm going to divide this side by 2, this side by 2, and you're going to end up with y equals 1/2. Let's see if we can make the problem a little bit bigger. Solve for n here. We have 4 over n, notice n in the bottom here, minus n plus 1 over 3 is equal to 1. Remember, the 1 is 1 over 1. So my LCD here is the multiplication of all the different factors. The different factors are n, 3, and 1. n times 3 times 1, which is 3n. So I'm going to multiply each one of these terms by 3n, or 3n over 1. 3n over 1 times n plus 1 over 3 equals 3n over 1 times 1 over 1. So I'm multiplying every single term by 3n. And let's see, simplify. This n cancels that n. So 3 times 4 is 12, 12 over 1, which is 12. This 3 cancels that 3. So I'm going to end up with n times n plus 1. I'll take care of that later. 3n times 1, that's 3n. Now let's see if we can solve this one. 12 minus, this is actually n squared plus n. There's the minus sign still sitting in the front. So when you distribute that minus sign, it will be 12 minus n squared minus n equals 3n. To me, that looks like a quadratic equation. And if you remember, when you have a quadratic equation, you want to move everything to one side. So if I bring that 3n to this side, I remember it's something called change side, change sign. And I like to write this in descending power. Negative n squared minus n, when you bring that 3n to this side, minus 3n, that will make it negative 4n. And there is the plus 12 equals to 0. And now we need to factor this. Move everything to one side, factor. You know by now, you heard me say this, I don't like to see a negative in the front. So I'll take a minus 1 out. And what's left? N squared. This becomes plus 4n. This becomes a negative 12. Am I done factoring? Because move everything to one side. Factor completely. Let's factor completely. Well, we're not done factoring completely. If you factor this one, that should be n plus 6, n minus 2. Now set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. We know that doesn't happen. This will never happen. Minus 1 will never equal to 0. N plus 6 equals 0. N minus 2 equals 0. Well, to solve this, you take the plus 6 to that side, you end up with n equals negative 6. To solve this, you take the minus 2 there, again, change side, change sign, n equals plus 2. So we have two answers. You should always take these numbers and plug them in and see if that's actually true or not. And if you plug both numbers in, I know you're going to end up with on this side 1, on that side 1. So both do work. So these are my two answers. I already looked at them, checked them. This is negative 2/3. When x is negative 6, when you plug it in, simplify it, 4 over 6, that's 2/3. That's negative 2/3. There's the minus. When x is negative 6, what's negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. So minus a minus, plus 5 over 3. Does that equal to 1? Notice you have the same number in the bottom. What's negative 2 plus 5? That's 3, 3 over 3, which is 1. It does check. Let's try the 2. When n is 2, 4 divided by 2, that's what? 4 divided by 2 is 2. Minus, when n is 2, this will be 2 plus 1, 3 over 3, which is 1. Does that equal to 1? Yes, it is. So both answers are good. I checked them, and it says, yep, when you plug them in, you will have a 1 there. Let's try another one. Solve for x we have x minus 2 divided by 5 minus the 1 is equal 2 over x. Again, the 1 is 1 over 1, so my LCD here is the multiplication of all the different factors. The different factors, 5, 1, and x, which is 5x. So I'm going to multiply each one of them by 5x. So let me write this. So notice I'm going to multiply each one of these by 5x over 1. Again, if you multiply by the LCD, once you finish this step, you should have no more fractions. The 5 cancels the 5. What's left here? X times x minus 2 as the minus sign. What's 5x times 1? 5x. This x cancels that x. 5 times 2, which is 10. Notice there's no more fractions. And now let's multiply this. That's x squared minus 2x minus 5x equals 10. Clean that, bring everything to one side. We have x squared. Negative 2 minus 5 is negative 10x. 7x, not 10x. I'm adding. Negative 7x. When bring that 10 to this side, that's a negative 10. Move everything to one side. We did that. Factor completely. This sign is negative. That tells me one is positive, one is negative. To make it work out, actually, let's change that. Let's make that a minus here. Let's go back, because otherwise you're not going to be able to factor this. We didn't cover the other method. Let's make that a minus here. So if I put a minus here, this will be, what's 5 times a minus 2? That's a negative 10. Negative 10. When you bring it to this side, it becomes positive 10. I changed the problem a little bit. So if this sign is plus, that tells me both signs going to be the same, both going to be negative. You couldn't factor it before, that's why I'm changing the problem. I just make these up, and sometimes I don't do a good job making them up. So the 10 is 2 and 5. Now it works fine. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. We have x equals to 2, x equals to 5. These are the two solutions. Now we can plug them in to see if they do work or not. Let's test the 2. When x is 2, what is 2 minus 2? 0. 0 divided by 5, which is 0, minus the 1. Does that equal to negative 2 over 2? Yes. Let's try the 5. When x is 5, 5 minus 2 is what? 3 over 5 minus the 1. Does that equal negative 2 over 5? The 1 is 5 over 5. Notice the bottom is the same. We keep it. And the top will be 3 minus 5, which is what? Negative 2. And that is equal to negative 2 over 5. So it does match. So both answers are good. Let's try a couple more problems a little bit bigger there. Solve for x. And we have 2 over x plus 3 plus 1 over x minus 3 equals negative 6 over x squared minus 9. Well, I need to find the LCD. Well, before I start thinking about finding the LCD, let me see if I can factor this one. I'm leaving a space for it. There's a reason. Now, if I factor this, this will be x minus 3 times x plus 3. So when you look at the bottoms, the LCD is the multiplication of all the different factors. Well, what are the two different factors that you see there? I only see x minus 3 and x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply every one of these by x minus 3, x plus 3. Every one of them. X minus 3, x plus 3. You can make it over 1 if you want to. This is x minus 3, x plus 3. And the reason I like to make them over 1, just to show you, it's top and bottom you got to cancel. So notice now, this x plus 3 cancels that x plus 3. And what's left here is 2 times x minus 3. This x minus 3 cancels this one. What's left is what? 1 times x plus 3. I don't need the 1. The x minus 3 cancels that. The x plus 3 cancels this. What's left is negative 6. Clean it. That's 2x minus 6 plus x plus 3 equals negative 6. 3x minus 3 equals negative 6. Take the minus 3 there. That's not a quadratic. That's a linear. 3x equals change sign, minus 6 plus 3, which is negative 3. And again, to solve it for x, I need to divide by 3 now. X equals negative 1. And check your answer. Well, at least, you know what, sometimes I get lazy. I don't want to check them. But what you should do, you should make sure this number you came up with will never make the denominator 0. Because if it does, you can't divide by 0. When x is minus 1, what's minus 1 plus 3? That's a 2. I'm okay. What's minus 1 minus 3? That's a negative 4. That's not 0. I'm okay. What's minus 1 when you square it? 1. 1 minus 9, it's not a 0. So there's a good chance I will be okay. So that's the least thing you want to do when you check your answer. At least make sure the bottom is not 0. You really should plug them in to see if it's equal to that. I'm just lazy. So that is good. Let's try another one. Solve for y. 4 over y plus 2 plus 2 over y minus 1 equals 12 over y squared plus y minus 2. Again, to find the LCD, I need to factor this one. I'm going to leave a space here. When you factor this, that's what? Y plus 2, y minus 1. So you can see now my LCD is the product of the different factors, and the only thing I see is y plus 2, y minus 1. y plus 2, y minus 1. Y plus 2, y minus 1. I'm multiplying every one of them by the LCD. Now let's cancel. Gone. I have 4 times y minus 1 plus 2 times y plus 2 12. 4y minus 4 plus 2y plus 4 is equal to 12. 4y and 2y, 6y, minus 4 plus 4 are gone, 0. And to solve for y, you got to divide by 6 now. Y equals 2. Now again, let's look at that 2. If you let y be 2, is the bottom going to be 0 here? What's 2 plus 2? 4. I'm okay. What's 2 minus 1? That's 1. I'm okay. That's 4 plus 2 minus 2. That's a 4. Most likely, I'm going to be okay. Let's try one more. Solve for x. And this is x, or x over 1 if you want to, equals 9 over x plus 3 plus 3x over x plus 3. Well, the 9 over the x is x over 1. So my LCD is going to be the multiplication of all the different factors. I see the 1 and I see the x plus 3. That's all I see for factors. So my LCD is x plus 3. So let's multiply each one of them by x plus 3. Leave a space here. Let's multiply by x plus 3. Let's multiply by x plus 3. And let's multiply by x plus 3. And now I see the x plus 3 cancels the x plus 3. The x plus 3 cancels the x plus 3. What's left on the left side is x times x plus 3 equals, that's 9, plus, that's 3x. That's x squared plus 3x. Bring everything to one side. When you bring them to this side, you change the sign. 3x and minus 3x is gone. When you bring the 9, that becomes a negative 9. Factor completely. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. X will have to be 3. X will have to be negative 3. Remember what I said. Check your answers. When x is 3, at least look at the bottom. Make sure the bottom is not 0. When x is 3, this is still 1. What's 3 plus 3? 6. I'm okay. What's 3 plus 3? 6. I'm good. When x is negative 3, this one's still 1. What's negative 3 plus 3? 0. You can't divide by 0. So you can't use that answer. That's out. Your solution here is only one solution. X equals 3. That's it. You can't use that one because that will make the denominator 0, and you can't divide by 0. And that's the end of this section.